much once again for tuning in. Welcome to yet another episode of Coffee Chat. This month, it's my honor to be able to interview Abi on his most recent newsletter. So by now, you should have read and received and read the newsletter that we sent at the end of this month, at the end of July. So if you haven't, please click below here to subscribe. And yeah, let's dive in. So Abi, what's up on your mind? I think it was it was a very different newsletter, I would say. The one we usually send is filled with more of like updates, things that we know for sure. And I think a lot of what you shared in July has been more about questions that we have and things that are rather like uncertain than I think certain. Mm-hmm. So yeah, tell us more about it and what's on your mind at this point.
For sure. Yeah, I think as I sat down to kind of write this month and just like reflecting on our conversation so far, it took me back to like 16 months ago in April of 2020 when we were at this verge of like, potentially expanding a new project in a new country. And everything kind of crumbled and we had to park it because of COVID and all of the other priorities. And of course, funding was also restricted. And I remember being so scared at that point and then thinking, oh no, I don't think I can do this again. Like, I don't think I can like go into like this vague place where you don't really know what's going to happen. I thought I wouldn't have the courage to do it again. And then 16 months later, writing this newsletter, almost ready for our flight time to go to Guatemala, it's kind of almost a cathartic process maybe, also very kind of amazing to see that made it through the last 16 months.
Yeah,
probably still,
too.
Yeah, all of you did too. And it's been a tough year for many people, and I think I say it with so much privilege when I say that we made it because it hasn't been as difficult as it has been for many people around the world. And having recognized that, I think the last 16 months was a lot of just like retreating, protecting, and ensuring that our team, our programs, our partner producers were all doing well. And I think that was the number one priority. And now, 16 months later, we're like, okay, let's go back to some more of that uncertainty. And I think every time we go to uncertainty, there are so many unknowns, and that's what we have right now. The questions that you probably have read in the newsletter are just a lot of that unknowns. And over the next couple of weeks, I hope together we can explore some of that and unpack it a bit more and have some answers for all of you and of course for ourselves as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's definitely the beauty in it that we are, like, you've vulnerably shared what's on your mind through this newsletter, right? I think a lot of the times I personally go back and forth about like how much of like what I'm thinking right now should we share, and how much of it should we kind of like have them stored until we are more sure that it's actually going to happen. So one thing that you should be knowing right now is that a lot of what's going to happen in the next few months and few weeks is very unknown, and I think we're entering that with like a full vulnerability and full transparency. That we don't necessarily know what's going to happen. And I think you were earlier mentioning about the 3 choices that we are going to have to make at the end, or 4 choices, right? Would you like to allude a little bit on that?
For sure, yeah. I guess in many ways we're going in with a few kind of overarching goals, right? And I guess I can start with the why of things, right? Over the last couple of years, especially as a result of COVID, our model has been more strengthened than it maybe was a few years ago, because we had to find more creative and innovative ways to reach producers, and we found those ways, and turns out we can do that at a larger scale with less money, right? And now that we have this model that actually works at that level, we've been talking a lot about how can we make sure that we can get more people access to this program, and as a result of that, as we grow our programming in Costa Rica, we're also looking at other countries where there might be possible communities and partner organizations with whom we can collaborate and make sure we can provide access to the tools that we have, the knowledge access and the market access to as many people as possible. And so in that light, we're thinking of it as maybe one country where we can potentially expand. Maybe it's Guatemala, maybe it's Mexico, maybe it's both countries. And we see that we have the bandwidth and the resources and everything kind of right there to be able to do it in both places. Or maybe it's none. And that's also a very good possibility that we might see that it might take us a lot more time. Maybe we need to go back to the drawing board. Right now, we're planning for 2022. Ideally, we would launch some of these new programs by the end of this year. We'll start having some updates for you. By mid-2022, these programs will be running on full engine. And considering the restrictions that we have, considering COVID, that's a lot of work to do in the next less than 12 months, right? And so I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that it might work out and it might go really well. It might also be that we have to take a step back and say, hey, how much can we take on our plate right now, considering we're such a small and small team of people.
Sure. Well, stay tuned, and I think we'll be sharing a lot more on this in the coming months and coming weeks. Okay, so let's switch the gear a little bit here. I think in July a lot has happened, right? And I think it's also one of those months in a year where we are more focused on wrapping up certain elements, but then we are also getting ready for the launch of a new program. Not only one program, but a few that we are currently thinking about. For example, you shared in the newsletter about the launch of the care training that's to start in August. So for that, we have been wrapping up the recruitment for a new cohort in July, right? What are you most proud of? Like amongst all the things that I think our team has been really working hard on, what are you most proud of, and why?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's so much happening. I think it's all been really exciting to see things unfold. I think with care training, this is our fifth year, maybe, fifth year of kind of launching another round of care training, and just kind of thinking back to like the 12, 16, 47, 60 something, 100 and something. So over the years, seeing the numbers of producers that we're able to recruit in this program grow. And with that, the results that we're seeing based on what people are telling us, what our producer partners are telling us, also based on what we're seeing in the market results, right? Like how much we're able to ensure that their income is growing. All of those things make me really excited. And so as we have this new group of producers, at this point, over 200 producers that are joining our program for this year, that's launching in a few weeks, I'm just excited for that. I think every year around this time, it feels like an excitement of like new family members and new people to kind of work with. So that's really exciting, I think, something I'm proud of. Something else that's been really exciting is that finalization of contracts. I think it's really cool. And if you're in a Bean Voyage WhatsApp group, you've probably seen it, but there's so many of these wonderful pictures we're starting to get of the bags are being ready to be shipped or are already being shipped already. And just being able to see our partner producers with their bags, they send us these pictures is just, I think, the most proud thing. And I always feel honored to be part of that process of getting that to the market. That's really cool. And then I think more from like COVID impact and from an overall support perspective, I think the new partnerships that we've built this year with different organizations to provide food baskets to our communities. Soon we're going to be growing that program to reach over 500 people. And that's a really big program that we're going to be launching. And so stay tuned for more updates on that, more kind of specific news on that. But I think that's a really exciting partnership. We ran a small food basket program for 26 families last year. Based on the success of that, we're about to launch something that will grow 3 times more than last year. So that growth means more responsibility, but it also means that we can actually make sure that more support and more resources are getting to more of our partner producers and their families.
My last question to you is about your personal note, that you've spoken a little bit about you being an introvert, however, you still craving personal contact and connection with people. And I think maybe the realization came about after having our in-person meeting, right? Where do you see ourselves and our organization kind of going in terms of like how much time we are going to be able to spend together as a team? Because I think we are mostly a remote team. We've always been that, and I think we have really experimented with different tools like the Notion, like Notion, Slack, and so many different like equipments and tools that came and left, because we were like open to like trying out new softwares along the way to make sure that our team had the right infrastructure to be able to flourish. But I think one realization we recently had was that despite us having had so many months and years of experience of working remotely, we still were able to find pockets of time together in the past, going to a meeting together or going to community together. However, that's been kind of like almost like paralyzed for the past 60 months, and we minimize all of this human contact, right? Where do you think, what is the new normal for us that I think a lot of offices are right now talking about, of like going back and so forth? Like what does going back to Bean Voyage look like from your perspective?
For sure. That's a great question. Yeah, I'll think out loud because I think this is a good question and we're still exploring. But I think the default for our team from the very beginning, way back when, has always been to work virtually. we recognized quite early on in our journey, mostly because we didn't have the resources, that you know, working from home was actually pretty, you know, efficient and sustainable and on all of that. So that was the default, I think. And as you said, there were moments, those pockets of time where we really enjoyed being with each other, whether it was putting together an event or visiting farms or any of the retreats that we used to host. Since COVID, I think we've met 3 times as a whole team, a few dinners here and there. So there's always like informal things we do, but formally, I think 3 times we've met in the last 6 months. Every couple of months, we try to have one kind of meeting in person. And it's been kind of a big highlight, I think, generally for the team, just getting a sense from in-person check-ins. I've heard from people that those are really big highlights. And I think that's because although the default was working from home, you always had access to people. And I think the last 16 months, your default has been working from home, but you still don't have access to people. And I think that's made people like myself, who is usually quite an introverted person, actually crave a bit more of that human interaction, being able to actually see people and interact more physically in a shared space. And so that's been really, really fun. We're going to be putting a picture on the newsletter of our team lunch that we had. And I just remember just feeling generally quite a positive energy. And everyone we're doing some design thinking, we're doing some brainstorming, we did some dreaming. All of that was just so helpful, and some problem solving. So all of that was so helpful for programmatic reasons and operational reasons, but also for everyone to feel like you're part of a bigger thing than just yourself and your computer, which is, I think, what is usually happening. So I do hope we can bring back more. I say in my realistic sense, and especially considering you and I tend to travel quite a bit, I would say in a realistic sense, having that maybe once or twice a year would be an ideal situation where we can have longer periods where, yes, we meet in person as regularly as possible wherever we are, but then maybe twice a year or once a year, there's an all organization meeting that happens, and it's for a longer period, almost like a summit or a conference where our team and facilitators and board maybe come together, and we're able to value the time together to create something beautiful for Bean Voyage in the future. So that would be my dream, of course, with budget permitting and other things permitting, but hopefully that'll happen soon.
Yeah, definitely. We can always try to sell more coffee and raise more funding.
Yes, we can.
To make the work environment that we want to work in, right? And I think, thank you so much for tuning in again. I don't know, I think that was kind of like a really beautiful note to end on, of like, there's a lot of uncertainty, but we are going to be finding our way within it. And we know you're going to be there for us. So thank you so much for watching. And stay tuned for what's to come from our trips. And in the coming months, there are a lot of exciting programs launching. So we'll keep you all posted. Thank you.
Have a wonderful August.